My name is Andrew Robel, and I am the founding partner of Emerging Europe, an organization based out of London, looking at 23 countries of Central and Eastern Europe. And this is probably my sixth, I think, Bucharest Forum. If I remember correctly, I always love coming back, so I'm glad to be here this time, and especially with such a fantastic panel. I won't try to introduce you myself. I'll ask you to introduce yourselves, and we're going to start with Bonnie.
Good afternoon, right? It's afternoon. Yes.
It is, yes.
My name is Bumi Akinosotu. I am the Director of City Innovation at Aspen US, and I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. Alex?
Hello, my name is Alex Sienkiewicz. I'm a Mykolaiv city, Ukrainian city mayor, and I'm responsible for everything.
Just like every mayor is. And Benedict, off to you.
Yeah, my name is Ben Perman. I'm a researcher at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission in the Department of Territorial Development. At the same time, I have been completing 16 and 2020 in Ukraine on the transition reform. It's a impressive reform which might be a lot of money. There are also excellent and yeah.
Fantastic. So before we start our discussion, I would like to ask each and every one of you to start with your main message for this panel, where the issue of sustainable cities and communities is quite complex, and it requires a lot of stakeholders to be involved in the success of that. But I would like you to take a look at the issue from your own perspective and bring it closer to us so we also understand it slightly better. Bonnie.
Well,
Mayor, please.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a very hard panel because it's right after lunch. So maybe we'll expect for people to come. But today, as you know, in Ukraine, there is a war. The cruel war that was initiated by Russia without any purpose, without any, religious or, ethnic problems. They just decided to invade Ukraine. They invaded part of it since 2014, and let's say the world community says like it's okay. We don't too much notice that made Putin think that he can do everything without any problem. So that's why they invaded Ukraine. But we in Ukraine, we review this awful situation as a chance for us to become better and stronger and use this situation with the bombardments of our city, of our infrastructure, mass killings, to become better and to prepare our country for even worse situation that can be. Our experience can be used for sure by other countries. I hope there won't be any war in future, World War III or something like this. But anyway, this experience can be used for different types of disasters, which can cause our weather changes, global changes on the world, on our planet. So for sure, we have a lot of things to share with using our, unfortunately, bad experience because, for example, the Mykolaiv city before the war was 500,000 city. When I was elected in 2015, we had a lot of plans, like with EIB on changing our bad water cleaning systems, to move from chlorine to hypochlorite of natrium to clean the drinking water. With World Bank, we decided to decrease the amount of let's say on the program of decarbonization of our heating facilities. But now we are concentrated on digging water from under the ground, because after the Russians destroyed our water pumping station, which is near Dnipro River, occupied on the left bank by Russians, we are now, since April 12th, 2022 without drinking water in our pipes. So we took water from the nearest river of South Buk, which is actually salted, because we don't have desalination facilities in our city because we never used this type of water. And we're now drilling boreholes, looking for the water with our partners from Germany, United States, France, and everywhere. We're getting osmosis cleaning systems and clean this water and distribute it for people like it was in World War II. So for sure, we review this war as a chance to be more resilient and to recover our city better than it was before the war.
We're going to come back to this topic because I think it's a very good one and a lesson for everybody else pretty much. Can we have your thoughts, please?
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I want to thank Aspen Romania for inviting me as well. In my role at Aspen US, I'm responsible for convening wonderful mayors and urban leaders together to solve problems that are happening in their cities. And I first want to also say thank you, Mayor. I don't know if anybody has said thank you, but mayors such as Alex are responsible for doing truly everything from making sure the streets are clean to dealing with the impacts of war. And to do that, you have to have tremendous intellectual flexibility. You have to be trusted by the people, and you yourself have to be resilient. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you do for the city and your citizens. And we all are looking forward to an end to this war. So during the summer of 2016, I had a humbling opportunity to live and work in Flint, Michigan. It's a city in the Midwest of the United States, if anybody is familiar. And I did not know you were going to talk about water, but interestingly enough, Flint dealt with a water crisis themselves, not due to war, but to mismanagement of government, we shall say. And the water was poisoned with lead. And at the time, I was working at the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the federal environmental arm for the United States. And I was sent to Flint first to teach people how to use water filters, which the United States, the almighty United States, you would never imagine that that would be the case, but that's what was happening. But the second thing was to talk to the residents about their concerns, take that information back to Washington so that they could make better policies and hold somebody accountable. And that goes to my point, which I think the mayor has alluded to, which is around trust. And I think regardless of where you are in the world, regardless if you're dealing with water infrastructure, if you're dealing with roads, if you're dealing with democracy issues, with a war, whatever it is, trust of people is very important. If people do not trust you, in a democratic society, you will not be elected. If people do not trust you, they will not value the information that you are giving to them that will help them live a more peaceful, sustainable, healthy life. And so for me, the importance of resiliency, or the building block of a resilient, inclusive, sustainable economy, is trust. Trust in the leaders, trust in the mayor, trust in the president, the governor, whatever entity that is responsible for keeping people safe.
We're going to again go back to that topic because it is very important, especially when it comes to leadership and how to build these municipal leaders, if we can call them that way. Benedict, over to you.
And also big thanks to Alexei for history all the mayors in the United States, and be humble and full respect of what you're doing. This is fundamentally not a contribution of sense. I would like just to keep on my side to plug in what was said about trust, because Ukraine provides to us also already today a very interesting case on how local trust can evolve and how can it improve. There's something very simple, just called local taxes. Let me quickly explain, because it might be not familiar to everyone. In Ukraine launched a reform in 2015, this was when the joint paper. They decided to give the new municipalities the new local self-government 60% of the personal income tax that the people produce to pay them within the jurisdiction of the municipality. What does it mean? So in the moment that I, as a citizen or one who is listening, I know that my taxes will not go away more to Kiev, whatever, but it goes now directly to him, to the mayor, to Alexei. And he cannot tell me anymore that yes, I tried about Kiev was million money, but and what you have. So it's like in the moment I became a stakeholder of my municipality, my local government. I developed something with my expertise background and experiments. You develop peer pressure, peer control. So you will develop a very social, powerful local system of resilience. And the Ukrainian municipalities, this is something nobody has researched yet into it. It shows so really by an anecdotal persuasion clear to see that thanks to this specific pattern, the Ukrainian municipalities were such strongholds of resistance against the Russian aggression. I won't elaborate anymore. I just want now to switch, because it's an opening statement, it was originally intended to say about green local governments. Now we are, while the war is continuing in Ukraine at the same time, very strange process, globally, so a fantastic process of green energy becomes cheaper by the day. It's now in the south of Europe, in the most part of Ukraine, it's the cheapest possible source of electricity. You have a one-time fixed investment in building of solar panels, and then basically just sun is there, bang it. So it's a no-brainer for any local government in Ukraine or elsewhere, where there's enough sun, there's enough wind, to invest in it, to have needs for local energy supply, to invest in this, or to use it. But more importantly, back to that story, if you have as a local government, as a municipality and city, the financial incentive in terms of tax revenues, that green local business is growing, then you will take care for it. Just a quick example from the European Union, Denmark, the case of Denmark. There are municipalities, put it bluntly, end of the world, and the border of an island to the seaside, basically no chance for economic development. But they have, like any other municipality in Denmark, they get a share from the corporate income tax and 100% of local personal income tax. So they're interested to develop and spot new chances for business development. And they realized electricity from green energy is the cheapest we can get now produced in Denmark. So they first invested time in attracting people investing into large solar panel farms and windmill farms. Then they realized this is the cheapest energy in Denmark. So they would next attract foreign business. This is energy intensive. So they have, in the remote areas of Denmark, we have now an economic revival of energy intensive industries, which nobody ever would have expected. And this is kind of where I see also Ukraine, and it will become a front runner. Because Ukraine has a lot of land that can be used as a usable land, agricultural usable land, not necessarily used for renewable energy, but a lot of also non-agricultural land which can be used. And having it, this is, I think, decisive also for Ukraine to keep this local tax incentive, the revenues from the green energies, local business tax or something like that, to make the Ukrainian municipalities front runners, that they efforts, because it's very cumbersome to do the land planning and so on for land intensive green energy, to go through it, because you will get a financial award afterwards. Thanks. I hope this has not been too long. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction. We have quite a few things to cover here, but I wanted to come back to yesterday. I had a chance to speak to the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine and the Minister of Digital Transformation, who is responsible for, a lot of how this war is being fought in Ukraine. And he said that, quite an interesting thing, that before the war, we were trying to look for crises to check how some of our solutions work. Now, we have a natural situation where we can still test these things, learn from them very quickly, understand whether they work or not, and also export them to other destinations. But what I wanted to ask Alex is one thing. How are you now dealing with two things at the same time? The first thing is trying to contain the situation, find, very fast solutions, because that's exactly what we are looking for, like the example of water that you mentioned. And at the same time, think about the future, because, that is inevitable. You have to think about the future of the city. So how do you manage to do those two things at the same time? It's on.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that we are sitting here in the Ministry of Defense, I think, yeah? And I look at these images, and they show the images of war. And for sure, now let's say the modern wars are not the same like on these images. These are bombardments that actually aimed from the satellite or by some people who were sent as spies. Mykolaiv was bombarded almost 215 days by Russian missiles, with the amount at least 4, and the record is 38 rockets. So 216 civilians were killed. This number could be much bigger, but half of the population left the city, so the city was half empty. And for sure, you can decrease the amount of service. Like, for example, if you have half the citizens, you can go with a half of buses, pump half of water, and heat the heating in a half of temperature. For sure, everything that we had to do before the war, we had to do in the same time of war. And like people ask me, how do you feel? How do you react on these circumstances? And I say it's nothing different between what we had before the war, except that we have ruins and we need to clean them and repair those buildings. And for sure, and with let's say with a deal. This war should be ended with the victory of Ukraine. We need to get our land back. And the longer this war will go, the less chances we have to do it. So that's why we need help of European Union, and I would say the help of Western world, because it's not about Ukraine and territory. It's about world order. You can't avoid the war. It's Machiavelli. You can't avoid the war. You can only postpone it for the advantage of your enemy. Russia is a state of war, so they share this war to Moldova, to Georgia, to Ukraine, and they're interested in frozen conflicts. As for Mykolaiv, we are not interested at all because it's 70 kilometers from our border, and we won't be able to develop our economy, our city, so we can plan, but these plans won't be realized because we won't be able to do it. So that's why we need a peace. After our victory, we need to bring our territories back. And
But in those circumstances, what are the areas that you are looking that are
yeah.
about the future?
So we reviewed the war. So we can't avoid the war. It is on our streets. We have these ruined buildings and everything. We have two chances. One, to sit and cry and say, "Oh God, please forgive us, bring us peace." And second, fight and plan. So that's what we do. We are fighting for our freedom and for the values of the Western world, and we are planning. What will we do after the end of this war? That's why the city of Mykolaiv and city of Kharkiv, we became two cities who decided to be under United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. We are creating a new master plans for our cities. This experience can be then replicated on a small cities in the region, southeastern regions. That master plan actually reflects all the spheres of life, what will be renovated or rebuilt on a Build Back Better basis. Not what we had before the war, but use the war as a chance to become better, to become more resilient, to become more effective, to become more energy efficient. That's why they work with the Norman Foster Foundation. We work with One Works Foundation, which is an Italian company. And before the war, we had most developed in Ukraine GIS system, where we put all the data on the layers, where we put like all our critical infrastructure, pipes, electricity, houses, land, and everything, cadastre, and we decided to use it as a base to create our new master plan. This work It's not a revolutionary work, but it's a work that use best experience of different kind of cities that were destroyed and then rebuilt, of cities that were under disasters like Hiroshima, like Rotterdam, and we are getting the best experience on rebuilding the cities and make them more resilient on this plan. Moreover, I don't believe in people, because people are always under temptation. So I believe in systems and rules. So if we speak about our master plan, that will be a tutorial for future generation on how to rebuild the city and how to build it in future and how to change this plan. So, and moreover, this could be replicated for smaller cities who don't have such opportunities and possibilities as the city of Mykolaiv.
Thank you very much. I wanted to go back to the example of that water, salty water that flows in the pipes right now. It seems that in those current circumstances, and Ukraine is one example, but in fact we can replicate this example to climate change and other issues that cities are facing right now. How can a city prepare for unexpected disruptions that are hanging somewhere and are inevitable to happen? And I would like the both of you to try to respond to that.
Yeah, I'll take a quick crack at this one. Thank you for the question. I want to echo what the mayor has talked about with systems and processes and rules, which I agree. I think the broader concept is our institutions and strong, trustworthy, stable institutions, which are comprised of people who are making decisions and who are planning. And because I work in city innovation, I will say that learning from other places, as the mayor has said, is tremendously valued. We live in an age now where information is everywhere. I convene every year mayors and urban innovators to talk about all of the problems and their solutions. And so I believe that the institutions, and I hope this is the case, and I trust this will be the case in your city, Mayor, institutions are rebuilt so that they can prepare, so that they can plan, educate, and rebuild when the time comes for a disaster, be it man-made or natural.
Benedict?
I would like to go a bit more fundamental, very simple. I mean, we cannot top-down give advice or on what a city would, what millions possible disasters a city can prepare. This can only the local level can do it, and the local level need therefore autonomy. And in this respect, again, I think this is what Ukraine had gained in the course of decentralization reform, and I would beg to God it will keep this healthy competition between the particular cities. I mean, Alexei would know it. He's in competition with Kherson, has been in competition with Kherson and Odessa, and then to a certain extent also Lviv and so on. And this was extremely healthy. I was watching it myself in the 4 years, and I was really sometimes even a little bit envious. I was thinking, well, in other parts of Europe we don't have this kind of a city proudly presenting in a meeting and a conference what they have new done in maybe in a digital solution. They were actually ahead of these days to the government. So the city of Lviv coming up first in Dnipro with some very smart digital solutions to needs of citizens, and it would spill over onto other cities, and they would try to do it better. And I think this is, again, we are talking autonomy, and this goes along. Autonomy means always money. If without fiscal autonomy, we are not really autonomous. And this is so good, so excellent about the Ukrainian model, which I think we really should think about and reflect on and take inspiration from these cities, municipalities that have this earning from the local personal income tax and some single business tax, so that keeps them running for good solution to the citizen. They know we have to be accountable. They're paying, and they want good service for the money they pay. So this is something. This is a extremely interesting, fundamental concept that I would say is driving the search for better solution and preparing also better and forming trust between local citizens. And by the way, if I make one more element, so we just recently published a paper on that, we could show, thanks to a file that was gone lost in the Kyiv International Institute for Sociology, and they found it and they couldn't open it, and we helped them somehow with an IT crack to open the file. So we got the data on trust, and with this trust data, we could nicely show it was exactly this amalgamation, this self-governance forming process
that would substantially by 30-40% increase trust in local government in Ukraine. And I think this again should, as this being an example, where it might be also from our side so much more important to look at the Ukrainian case also as an inspiring model.
If I may actually, this was a great point. It reminds me of a book that I'm reading. It's called If Mayors Ruled the World. And it's by Benjamin Barber, who has passed away. But he makes this very point, Benedict, that mayors have the autonomy, they have the creativity, and the competition between them allows them to be rulers in a way that a president or a governor or a more higher level official cannot. And so he makes a compelling argument that basically mayors should rule the world. And the more I read the book, the more I'm starting to believe him. The more that I meet mayors around the world, the more I'm starting to see that I think there is a pathway, or there's something to be said about the tremendous value that mayors bring to solving problems.
You brought the topic of leadership. I wanted to come back to it a little bit later, but since we are talking about it right now, I think in Ukraine, the very interesting situation that it is that quite a few mayors have been in office for quite some time. Let's take Andriy Sadovy, for example, from Lviv. He's been, I believe, for several decades, several terms. Do you think that in the case of cities, it is actually important that this leadership is more consistent in the sense of, lasting a little bit longer, or perhaps not necessarily? It's an open question now, so anyone can take it.
Well,
the mayor starts, so that's
I think Mayor Sadovy was born being mayor. So I mean, he's so many years a mayor. But anyway, people.
I don't remember him not being a mayor.
Yeah, I mean, he was elected by people and then re-elected and re-elected. That means he's okay. But anyway, I want to tell about if we speak about systems, we need to speak about viruses. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm a software developer. I'm certified ASP.NET C# developer.
That's the system. That's where the systems and the viruses come from.
Yeah, I'm programmer. So before my mayorship, I was an IT entrepreneur. So if we speak about viruses, these are, let's say, information that could be shared and that could penetrate the society and change the mind. This could be good and this could be bad, because like we see in Russia that people there hate Ukrainians. They think that we kill Russian people, Russian-speaking people. But actually in Mykolaiv, we have like 85% of people speaking Russian. Moreover, those 100 people killed by Russian rockets were all Russian-speaking. So when Putin says that he protects Russian, we have evidence that he kills Russians. So, I mean, kill Ukrainians, Russian-speaking. So, today, the trust to leaders, to trust to leadership can be ruined by the information. Actually, what we have now is that before to get these taxes out of the cities, the main government made this information because we know we need to get the money from local authorities for them just not to spend for the culture, for the education. It's not on time. It's the military needs on time. So, and we want to get all that stuff from local authorities because they are also corrupted. As for me, I, for example, want to be as a most transparent community in Ukraine. That's why we, in cooperation of European Union Anti-Corruption Initiative, made a steering committee, made a lot of initiatives. But anyway, information. So, in my childhood, my mother told me, learn mathematics. Mathematics is the queen of knowledge. Then I was in university, and there was a professor who said, logic is a queen of because you have to learn logic, because everything could be explained by the logic. Actually, artificial intelligence is about logic. Yes, no, yes or no. And then I became a mayor and I stood the queen of sciences it's communication. Actually, if you have the skill, you can live without mathematics and logic. And some things in public, in life, are not somehow connected to logic at all. So yes, to keep this leadership, to strengthen this lead, to make it stronger, we need to communicate. This is about civil society. This is about communication, not formal, but total. We need to communicate everything what we do. All the transparency could be used against us, but if we communicate it in the right way, we in Ukraine understood that, because since 2014 we barely communicated it. Here is Anna Hopko, who is sitting there. She was the communicator, but different types of presidents can kind of, instead of use her, were afraid of her, like it's now, right? Something like this. So communication strategy is very important, and leadership is about communication, and communication is about internal dialogue.
Would you like to? Thank you. Would you like to chip in? Go ahead.
If I may, one more comment regarding the virus. This is again me as the behavioral economist. The beauty of the local level, of the municipal level, where people are in physical interaction with each other, so they look into each other's eyes. If I start gossiping badly about Alexei, like tell Hannah something bad about Alexei, she would know it's not some anonymous face, anonymous web page, it's Benedict. And if it turns out that what I was telling her about Alexei, the bad information, is not true, she'll go back to me and tell me very frankly in the face, you are a blatant liar. And I will really get red-faced, and I'm out of the local communication network. I'm saying that as an example, very important, that exactly in the digital age, as I think is not sufficiently realized in many circles, in the digital age where you can outreach via social media incredibly far, the local issue is the more important, because locally, where we are kind of enforcing information and the truthfulness by our daily physical interaction, is the place where what kind of disinformation has a hard time to survive. It does not mean it doesn't work at all. I agree with Alexei, it's an issue. But if you do rightly, and if you're honest and repeating your honest, a good, well-intended action as a local leader, as a mayor and then local council member, then of course there is no chance to really win against you with kind of these dirty disinformation campaigns. And this is, I think, an additional value why Ukraine, I guess, so is a part of the story, and this would be my assumption, why Ukraine has shown so resilient against the Russian aggression, because it had so much local self-governance. So not only the decision would be taken at leadership level much faster to the quickly evolving crisis, the destruction in the front area, the areas close to the front, but then also the huge internal displaced people, tsunamis in the western part of Ukraine, the local government had to. And my understanding is, I mean, this is not that I could beg it, but my understanding is the Russian fully underestimated. They hadn't, when they were planning the invasion, they had their own Russia as a scenario where kind of there is no real local self-governance. You exchange the governor and then bang, the hierarchy is set and the governor will give the instruction to all territorial administrations to follow the new invaders, Russians, aggressors line. It didn't work at all in Ukraine, obviously, because you had already the local self-governments, which would know it's about the defense of our territory, and we will not give up on that. And so I think this is another important lesson, I would say, we might try to consider looking for and taking inspiration from, that Ukrainian way of decentralization, which is very atypical if you look around the globe. So this is my capacity where I'm looking around the globe, where has who, in what way decentralized. It was the Ukrainian way with this personal income tax, unheard of in most countries around the globe, that this would create also this resilience and the self-cleaning system of allocation of local information regarding leadership behavior. Why is the question, if I may quickly, and then I stop, Sadovi since then in power? Well, of course, he's a charming and eloquent politician, there's no question. But exactly at the same time, he's constantly exposed to local peer pressure. So he cannot do a big mistake without, at some point in time, his wife would tell, you know what, today in the market, someone approached me and said, what you did on this was not right. And then they will have a home discussion. I guess, I don't know, I haven't witnessed, no, not that you think I would know what's going on privately at the Sadowi's house, but there will be these kind of internal processes. And this again can only be done at the local level, the peer-to-peer interaction that give a direct feedback to what I'm doing wrong. And this is why all over the globe, usually, in particular in countries where you have this local tax going to local budgets, mayors remain once they survive the first election, they usually remain once you carry them out of the office, so to say. 60%, it's now 64%, or is it still 60% of personal income tax? I know that after my departure, 64% now of personal income tax goes to budget of municipalities and cities. Everywhere in Ukraine.
We have a chance to ask a question if there is one from the floor before I ask pretty much the last one. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any. Okay, so we were talking about the trust. We were talking about stakeholders that are invested in a way or interested in or part of the whole framework of the ecosystem. Do you think there is a way? And Benedikt mentioned the financial element here, but is there a great way of actually building a coalition of all who are involved in the city, because the municipality, the mayor is only one person, but I'm talking about the public, the general public. What is the solution here? How to make sure that the support is there for whatever solutions need to be implemented?
Yeah, I can give an example. It is US, so San Diego. One of the issues I've been looking at is the blue economy, basically how cities are protecting the water sources for their communities as it relates to trade, tourism, consumption, et cetera. So the city of San Diego has partnered with businesses, with civil society, scientists, and academia to come up with ways to protect their water source, because it is a major economic engine for that city, and they could no longer sustainably continue to operate, for example, shipping equipment that was, emitting horrible toxins into the air. So in San Diego, actually, they have been able to, I believe, move from sort of the high emitting machinery to completely electric. And that was done through public and private sector and civil society conversations and testing, and yes, learning from cities throughout the world. So I do believe in this example, and there are plenty, you can see where the mayor alone cannot do it, but in fact pulled in sort of quasi-government, scientific, academic, civil society to address their problem of protecting their waterways.
And when it comes to the general public, because all the citizens that are part of the whole community, how to make sure that we involve them as well?
Yeah, education, right? Education and trust. But education, really, as someone who was new to this blue economy concept, I was reading through their materials, and it was very clear to me what they were trying to do. And they were transparent in their mistakes. They were honest about the direction that they were headed in, that the city was headed in. And the goal was very clear. They wanted to reduce emissions and protect the water. That is a very, very easy concept for a ordinary person to understand. So to the mayor's point about communication, I think that's very important in education.
And transparency as
And
well.
transparency.
Benedikt, what are your thoughts here?
Okay, so first of all, again, as an economist, I would say any solution where you can plausibly explain to the citizen that you will get more value, service, infrastructure for less money, like green energy, if I may say again, it should be an easy sell. And then, of course, as Alexei already stressed, it's the art of communication, what is to any mayor needed, and that should get him in time. And if I may, again, on this tax issue, it's like in the Ukrainian setting, knowing that it's 60%, 64% of the personal income tax of the local electorate goes to my budget. So I am interested I have a financial incentive to keep them happy every day. So it's a self-enforcing mechanism to be a good communicator. Yeah? So back to the story of Sadovi. Yeah? So this, it seems to me quite logical that in this setting, when you have this incentive, the award that if you do a good communication, if these people trust you, you will literally get more money because then tax compliance is increasing. And that you have then the national incentive to really do proper communication in time and not to surprise citizens by something so that they would feel like not taken in time on board. And so it seems to me obvious it's the communication skill plus the right incentives local that good communication gets a natural award, which is happening in the Ukrainian context. And then
Alex,
it will work
anything
very well.
to
Yeah,
add on
so,
your example?
First of all, I want to mention one of professors. Before my mayorship, I finished the School of Mayors. There was another government organization for on the base of Kiev Mohila Academy, like a business school. And there was a professor who said that 90% of those people who never get success, they find the answer on the question why or how to get rich, how to get married, how to find a job, how. But only 10% of those who are successful ask question why to find a job, why to marry, why to do something. So if you find the answer for the question why, the answer for the question how will be what for, what for, why, and then how it will be found like in a couple of minutes. So when you communicate something with like this is my problem, we communicate how we change the water cleaning system, how we do this and how we do, but people, what for, why? This is a problem of modern communication because we explain how but not why. And for sure penetration of information, it's not like you said something and everyone understands why. So you need to explain everything as the same thing like 100 times. And if people from your surrounding ask you, you told them already, it's already told. You say no, because only 1 or 2% understood that. So I could say that Russia, for example, they spend like billions, not millions, but billions of dollars around the world to promote Ukraine as a state of corruption. Why? Why? Because they wanted European Union to understand that Ukraine is bad country to be taken in European Union. We are more Russians than Europeans. And we hear about that stuff. And some people ask me, but we hear about those cases in Ukraine, corruption cases. And I said, yes, for the last 10 years, we created so many anti-corruption bodies that they have to work and they have to find that corruption. But we never hear about corruption in Russia and Belarus. Does it mean that they don't have corruption? No, that's because they don't fight with it. So for sure, we need to use information to communicate our needs and thoughts outside. For sure, we need to do it inside because we need to understand what people want. And for sure, we don't need only to gather the information what people want. But we need, as leaders of communities, we need to bring a new level of life to them. That's why we don't have only to ask what they want, but to tell them what they need in future, just to change the quality of life, that they change the type of thinking. Education and culture. These are two things that will change for sure the next generation that will not only live with it, but demand, or they will say like, we need this, but not only consume information, but analyze.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I have to say that, oh, there's a question. Sure.
Thank you, Alexander. I didn't want to ask the questions, but your wonderful speeches inspired me. So first, talking about communications. So it's really important, but analyzing, for example, Sadovay experience of being mayor for fourth time, also mayor of capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, Klitschko and others. So since I studied at the Lviv National University, so I know the problems of Lviv. Last 18 years, I have been living in Kiev. So actually the question is not just about communications, because those mayors and they are perfect in communications, but this is the communications of promises. So I think we have to create the culture of analysis of how the promises are being delivered. And this, how to say, not amnesty, but the real memory, what have been promised at the beginning and delivered. Because I do believe after Ukrainian victory and the fast is happened, I fully support Alexander, because we all now want Ukraine to get more. And this Russian hybrid warfare, using or instrumentalizing corruption against our strategic goal to become full-fledged members of NATO and the EU, because actually Russia, it's blaming Ukraine for corruption, but so my question is, so how to, especially after the war, there will be presidential, parliamentary, and local elections. So how to teach people to analyze, and I'm sure some of mayors will run again, but there are very strategic problems. For example, water quality. When I visited London, I could drink water from tap in flat, in hotel, everywhere. So this is a quality of life. Because when we are talking about perfect communication skills of candidates for mayor as a strategy to win by promising. So it's important to see. Unfortunately, in Ukraine, there is no cities where you could drink water just being in your flat. So you are buying water, which is really becoming more and more expensive. Second issue, this is the waste management. So if you analyze it's around like the territory of Luxembourg, it's the size of Ukrainian garbages around the country. So actually the question is what to do with the waste. Klitschko promised several times that he will solve the biggest problem of Kiev. It's a waste management, garbage from all residential buildings, because the biggest dump of garbage 30 kilometers outside Kiev smell like you cannot survive. And actually this is a huge environmental problems. So it's good to promise new eco parks or to renovate old ancient cities which are part of UNESCO, like in Lviv, but it doesn't mean, because Sadovay promised actually to solve the biggest problem of Lviv, it's garbage problem. It's situated 7 kilometers outside Lviv in small village Hribovichi, but it's never happened. So I think the competition of best project, how to increase the quality of life, not how to renovate the central part of Kiev, increase city, and then to make it. So my question is how to work with the society, then to increase their demand to mayors to solve real problems related to the quality of lives, not just to see as more tourists as possible, but actually I would like to live in the city, in the capital, when I can drink water and to be sure that this water is good quality, I can sort waste, and actually to understand that the mayors is responsible for innovations, new technologies. And actually my congratulations with Alexander, because he's victory in 2015 actually one of the outcome that Russians didn't captured or occupied Mykolaiv in 2022, because with pro-Russian forces at that time 2015, so and having mayor with pro-Russian position, I could predict that maybe Mykolaiv, like Kherson city, the destiny of Mykolaiv could be the same like Kherson with 10 months of occupation. So this is really, but now it's important how good guys rule in the city and not allowing Russians to occupy, building strong institutions. Because the question is to Mayor Alexander, he seems like tired of his service, of all this. So who will become next? Is there a guarantee that pro-Russian forces will never use good communication skills to sell to the audience how they could take care better than Alexander and use information or disinformation, having access to local TV channels to win. Because Alexander mentioned that communication, how you said, just a second, you said the trust can be ruined by information. Trust could be established by disinformation. When you have TV channels, social networks, and others. Sorry for long
Thank you
discussion, but
very
maybe
much for
you
the
provoked
comment.
me.
Thank you very much. Who wants to take it quickly, Alex, or you want to? So go ahead first, and then Benedict will.
Sure.
Close.
I think I finished my previous round of intervention. That the main thing is education, for sure, and information. These are main thing to change the mindset of people. But usually, we have a lot of bad politics. The president is bad, the city councilor is bad, the mayor is bad. But who elected them? Who elected those people? Citizens. So those who blame them that they are bad, those were elected in them. So I mean, the quality of those who we elect is a quality actually of those who vote. So for sure we need to work on those, and for sure everyone likes to control. We like to control, and we always know better than those who sit there. I mean, better than mayor. I ask people sometimes, how long have you thought about it? 15 minutes? 20 minutes? We think about a year, I can resolve it. So, I mean, we have a lot of those experts in football, in asphalt, in war. Now we have military experts. But anyway, I mean, it's good. It's good that I think the best way to change the society is to educate it and to develop the critical type of thinking. To ask the question, why every time they hear the information? This guy made this thing. Why? So everyone has to understand, analyze the information, but not consume. And we need to teach our children how to understand and analyze information, but not consume.
Thank you, Benedict.
Thank
Final
you.
thought.
I would like now to talk for hours, but I have to try to get it short. Firstly, I'm very skeptical about the idea of educating someone. I think the Soviet Union had tried to educate 230 million people, if I'm correct, and it didn't work out very well. I'm more believing into motivations, incentives. Firstly, I think there's a generational change taking place in Ukraine. With a new generation growing up, which has a more clear idea how they would like to live a good life in a public space, not only beautiful parks, but also, for instance, having drinking water. And there will be more after the war, I guess, because millions will return, after all, from Europe, and they will have their new benchmark to compare with, and they will come with these benchmarks and then into new demands, into local policies. And now I have to talk about something that boring, but unfortunately super important on this issue. Namely the missing legal public personality of municipalities in Ukraine. Who is in charge of what? These days in Ukraine, nobody for anything. The mayor is a legal personality with limited capacities. The council is a collective body, so whatever they decide, nobody individually is in charge of it, can be made responsible for it. And you have then in the local administration a directorate for land planning, directorate for education, blah, blah, blah. These are separate legal personalities. And so chaos, sorry, I mean to call it by name is very undiplomatically, this is total chaos. What is a European municipality? Here we are guest in Bucharest. The city of Bucharest is a public legal personality, a closed legal entity with a clear-cut structure. There's a mayor who is kind of the CEO, who is chief of the administration and takes full responsibility for what the administration is doing. And you have a city council whose job is to take the general strategy, the general framework for the development of the city, and otherwise to control only the implementation. You have these days in Ukraine, the city council being full-time employees, basically they're working officially without being reimbursed substantially. I think it's meanwhile they introduced a reimbursement, but it's ridiculous. So people are supposed to devote voluntarily as council members loads of time, sometimes 100% of the working time, for development in the city without getting officially anything in return. So let aside this reimbursement problem, but the point is they are now involved in the project, so they cannot come up as a separate control body because they have conflict of interest issues. So this is why the European Commission and this is why the European Parliament is so insisting and will keep insisting on the Ukrainian authorities to please swiftly implement this dead, boring, but very important legal change that would transform municipalities and cities in a public legal personality, like in the rest of Europe and basically the rest of there are only 3 countries left, and in that respect, Ukraine is, sorry to say so, it's still very kind of old-fashioned. There's Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, where local governments have no publicly personality character. And I hope very much that this is going to change soon, because then, Ms. Hopka, then you have exactly the clear-cut chain responsibility. You can say, Mr. Mayor, you promised, you didn't deliver. Now, these days, makers are tried all the 5 years, but then the director of the land development department was sabotaging me, and the council was sabotaging me. No, if you have a public personality, you can't excuse yourself anymore. It's you have the power, you can do it, go for it. If you don't deliver, next one. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Benedikt. We need to wrap up, and I have to say that it's. Would you like to? Oh. We are way past our time, but go ahead. But make it very, very short, please.
Yeah, I think we are in such a camera atmosphere. That's why it's possible to intervene somehow. 2 small just comments, because 2 things resonated highly. First, education, as Alexander mentioned, and we, through our cooperation with GMF, I'm representing progressive teachers, and that's the platform. I'm founder from Ukraine, from Kyiv. And we say progressive teachers, we are just educate educators and internally displaced people, especially from Mykolaiv, from Kherson, and from Odessa region. And it means that with this kind of dimension, we can just raise the quality of education. It's not enough only to talk about education. It's necessary to support people now in need, especially internally displaced educators, to provide more quality for students. The first one. And Mykolaiv for me is a second native town, because I defended my dissertation in Mykolaiv, despite the fact that I studied at Diplomatic Academy in Kyiv. And in the context of Mykolaiv, you mentioned a lot also about water management, water waste management. And from my personal experience, I defended Dnipro River from the main water polluter in Ukraine. And guess what? The main water polluters in Ukraine. We have companies that are providing water for population, utilities, and usually they are the main water polluters. I mean, in Kyiv it's Vodokanal, and the owners is city council. I mean, the half of the entities. In Mykolaiv, I don't know, but I think it's also utilities. In Odessa, it's private company. It means now that it's necessary to fight with these big polluters to defend our water resources. And it's so difficult. And Alexander mentioned why I am doing this. Because I am swimming every day, all the year in Dnipro. And when I saw the picture when our main water artery was so polluted by these big polluters, for me it was answer. I can do this with our people, with our activists, to defend our water resources, not only for our generation, but for the next generation. And it will be very useful to have now the planning in the context of local authorities to change this attitude towards water management and to provide our people with high quality water. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that comment. We do need to wrap up. And the final thought, I have to say that the discussion was particularly interesting because talking about sustainability, we mentioned zero net only 0 times, which is quite contradictory, but actually interesting because we talked about so many things that contribute to a successful to reaching this success when it comes to achieving sustainability. So thank you very much for that. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much.